The Ink and Paint Club podcast is intended for mature audiences only, so don't tell your parents! Listener discretion is advised.
Well, do we want to do this so Kyle can go back to his nappy naps?
Let's get Kyle back in Snooze Town.
I mean, snoozing is important.
Yeah, I know how important it is. I'm an avid snoozer myself. Hi, my name's Matt. I've been snoozing for nearly 30 years.
You're listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast, your weekly home for animation reviews and discussions.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ink and Paint Club podcast for this week. My name is JD, and I'm joined by my two good friends, Mr. Kyle and Mr. Matt.
Hello. Hello.
I apologize. We woke Kyle up from a nap to do this. But this week, we are talking about a little holiday short that released back a couple weeks ago on Netflix, titled Alien Xmas. It is a 45-minute stop-motion short produced by Jon Favreau, who obviously you know from all the new Disney remakes and Marvel and all that. And
he's kind of a big name right now.
He's kind of a big deal right now. And then some people I were not familiar with, the Chiodo brothers, who I guess are the guys behind Killer Klowns
from Outer Space.
Yeah. I've only seen that movie once in my life.
I've only seen it once too, but it did leave an impression. It's a very it is a very unique movie. It's very fun.
Unique is a good word for that.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't mind rewatching it again. Yeah, that's as far as like sort of 80s like I guess it is like it is a horror movie, but it's like just very it's
a horror comedy for sure.
Yeah, but it's a fun watch for sure. So this movie was directed by Steven who's the middle brother. But it's based on a book that him and one of the other brothers worked on like in 2006, also called Alien Xmas. I wasn't able to find many illustrations from the book just going through Google's image search. I was able to find like a couple, but not any of like the whole book or anything. The style definitely looks a lot different. I think they really definitely leaned into sort of the Rankin Bass sort of influence on the actual animation.
Yeah, for sure.
From the illustrations I saw from the book, it didn't seem to be influenced in that way. But it's funny because the other thing that they're well known for is for doing like stop motion stuff for other productions. So Killer Klowns is like their main claim to fame, but that's like I believe there is stop motion in that movie, but a lot of it's mostly like big suits and puppets and that sort of thing.
Right. From what I was reading, the way that these guys and Favreau got connected is they did all the stop motion stuff for Elf. Jon Favreau directed, and I'm assuming that Elf stop motion short that they did after the fact.
Yeah, exactly. So I just learned about this because I've never seen all of Elf. I've seen bits and pieces here and there on television. I probably should check it out sometime. But
my wife's family it's almost a ritual to watch Elf every Christmas.
It does seem to have become some sort of classic because there is a documentary series on Netflix called The Movies That Made Us, which is an offshoot of The Toys That Made Us. And they just put out like a 2-episode little spin-off called The Holiday Movies That Made Us, and they talk about Nightmare Before Christmas, and they talk about Elf. And so on the Elf episode, they talk about like the brothers' role in doing the stop motion, and there's actually like a whole bit in there about how, not specifically related to the stop motion, but the whole Rankin Bass sort of influence that was seen in the movie. There was actually some trouble with them securing the sort of blessing from like the Rankin Bass company or whatever to go through it. That there's some fear that they're going to have to reshoot like major portions of the movie, like with new costumes and everything, because they're showing like, side by side comparisons about like how the movie looks and how it looks compared to like the old stop motion stuff. And like, it's very clearly influenced. So there's not much of a case to be made, but Yeah, I guess they got some really good lawyers or something because they were able to kind of get away with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, like you said, the connection that eventually ended up in this movie was made there for sure. The So Elf came out like in 2002 or 2003, I think.
I think it was late 2000s. Let me check here. Oh, 2003. Oh, thought it was later than that.
Right, and then the book came out in 2006. And then I think the talks for trying to do a special based around the book had been kicked around since around shortly after the book came out. And then it wasn't until just recently that they were really able to get it off the ground because, of course, with John producing it, if you kind of look at the time frame there, if the book came out in 2006, it would have been around 2008 that Iron Man came out, and then basically the whole MCU leading up into the Mandalorian. So he would have been busy as fuck.
Right? Yeah, John. Yeah, he's been a busy boy for the last 15 years.
Yeah, that's all in pretty good stuff. So
yeah. So out of all that, we got this little special. It's about a race of very stereotypical looking gray aliens who apparently are all kleptomaniacs.
they're called kleps.
Yeah, they're called kleps, and they go from planet to planet just stealing and hoarding stuff for no other reason than just to collect stuff because that's just what they do. And so they find Earth, which they describe as, the planet with the most stuff that they've ever seen. So they send down this little dude named X, who is the tiniest of the little gray aliens, and he needs to install a gravity device at the magnetic North Pole to basically let demagnetize everything on the planet so it goes floating at the space so the aliens can take it. But the alien comes down and does his thing, but through the magic of a small child, learns the spirit of Christmas and giving, and brings that influence back to his people. And it's, I don't know. I will say I watched this like a couple hours ago. This is the most light, non-offensive Christmas thing I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it did seem. Yeah, I did dig it, and I think that's just because I think as far as premises go, whenever you got like something as iconic as Christmas, and then like you kind of insert a factor in there that's not typically seen. So like in this case, aliens, like it's always kind of like a surefire like good idea, like kind of like Nightmare Before Christmas, trying to combine Halloween and Christmas, or the Grinch. It's just like just somebody that hates Christmas, and it's just like he lives in a Christmas town or a town that celebrates Christmas constantly. Like when you kind of combine factors in like that, it always makes for kind of an entertaining story. I will agree on the fact that it is definitely unoffensive, like especially when it comes to like sort of the antagonistic the aliens, the kleps and stuff, because even in the last like sort of 15 minutes of the movie, when the aliens do show up and they start kind of causing menace and stuff, it's not anything too. I mean, it's kind of funny seeing it done in that faux Rankin Bass look, with them like sort of like running around with like ice guns and wrapping paper guns, and just sort of the aliens and the elves kind of just warring on each other and stuff. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I, of course, being the big Invader Zim fan I could not shake the connections on certain elements.
I was gonna say I was just reading some info on this, and it showed like one of the reviews basically described this movie as the Grinch and Invader Zim put together, and I can't really disagree with that.
Yeah, just based so like on two specific factors is they do make particular mention about the size of X, like being like the smallest of the kleps, and then like they even their leader Z, like
the tallest.
Yeah, the tallest. It seems to be, well, no, not necessarily, but yeah, they do talk about like, I was kind of hoping somebody taller would want to take on this mission, that sort of thing, and then kind of the whole plot of the kleps putting the anti-grav machine on Earth. It just seems like something that would have done like that Zim would have attempted on the show, kind of like, to send like all the snacks out into space for the tallest to
Well,
collect.
didn't they kind of do that in one episode where he like was trying to extract all the lava from inside the planet?
No, so I think that was, if I remember right, that was Tack the Hideous New Girl. So that was a different Irkin that was trying to do that. They're trying to hollow out
I'm just
Earth.
saying in terms of like plot similarity.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So they were trying to hollow out the Earth and then fill it with snacks.
Fill it with snacks.
So kind of similar in a certain respect, for sure.
Vader Zim's so goofy.
Well, speaking of Christmas, it also has one of the best Christmas specials
It
of
sure
all
does.
time.
All hail Santa.
Yeah. I can't.
Well, Kyle, sorry, I haven't given you a chance. What did you think of this special?
Oh, without saying that, I was gonna say it was Invader Zim mixed with the Grinch, but I got different vibes saying that. The thing that got me with Invader Zim was they gave him a fucking robot to be his partner.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, they had the whole robot in this movie too.
The only thing that I had a problem with was if they sent the alien down to do it, and he got the robot to do everything, why didn't they just send the robot to do everything? It was just kind of dumb to have them together.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Then,
Yeah, I think that's just one of those things that kind of gets overlooked. Kind of, I feel like they kind of demonstrate the aliens as being rather inept in things that aren't just like stealing. So I think maybe they're not the most like well thought, and that's another kind of Zim connection too. Is that the alien race in that show is not very smart either. They kind of just get by like on luck and a prayer. Like,
yeah.
I will say that the robot is responsible for the one joke in this thing that really got me. So when the robot and X go down, go underground to build the gravity device, the robot starts like pooping out like boxes of materials, and at the end he shoots out instructions in an L wrench.
oh
He's going to be assembling IKEA furniture.
right.
That one got me for some reason.
That's a pretty good gag.
Yeah, so that made me laugh.
I think the other gag I really enjoyed was and they tie this into the plot too, is that when Kleps get overwhelmed and there's no other option they can take, they just like play dead and they turn into like they just look like big old alien dolls.
Yeah, they just ragdoll.
Yeah, and that's kind of the whole reason why X kind of ends up in Holly's possession. Is like her dad just comes and goes, "Oh, this is just like a weird toy. I'm gonna bring it home to my daughter," and then like shows him inadvertently shows him the joy of Christmas, and it warms his heart so much. Because that's the other thing too, is like at the very beginning of the movie they kind of detail like, the Kleps used to be these very colorful, joyous aliens, and then the power of greed sort of overtook them, and they lost their color. Yeah, and that's kind of like the whole moral behind the specials. Like it's to
better
not be
to
selfish.
give than to receive.
Yeah, it's essentially. Well, no, not necessarily, because they kind of get their hearts warmed by receiving gifts as well. So it's just more like it's nice to not be a dick and steal shit.
Yeah, I think that's all we can expect out of life.
Yeah.
X is a bit of a dick for regifting his gift.
Kinda.
Hey, well, he made somebody happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he did it right in front of the little girl that gave him the dog, and that's kind of fucked up.
Well, I mean, I don't think he necessarily re-gifted, right? I think it was just more like it was just a gesture, because I think they have the dog at the end of the movie when they show that the aliens have integrated themselves into elf culture, which is kind of funny.
I noticed the spaceships look like ornaments, old-timey ornaments.
Yeah, so that's like a fucking visual they do right at the end of the movie when everything's regained its color, and like they do a big old wide shot of the spaceship and all the little smaller spaceships docking on it, and it looks like a Christmas tree with their ornaments, and I thought that was a pretty fun visual too. So apparently, I was reading that anything related to spaceships in this movie is CG, but everything else aside from that is stop motion.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I understand that, like, might as well work smarter than harder, like in relation to like stuff that probably requires a lot of floating, like sort of props and stuff. But the thing is, there's a good bit of this movie where there's just tons of shit. Like the anti-grav machine gets turned on, and there's a good like probably like a little less than 5 minutes of characters and props and shit like floating around the North Pole. And I'm just wondering, like, it would have been fun to see if at least it's not on Netflix from what I noticed, but maybe there's like on YouTube or something. But I would love to see like a little behind the scenes things, just because I would love to see like what these scenes look like with all these like things floating around. Because I imagine they had to edit out like a lot of like little armatures and stuff. Yeah, like little wires.
I'm always interested to see behind the scenes stuff for stop motion, especially like when Leica does their behind the scenes stuff. That's always an interesting watch.
Yeah, so that's like my main frame of reference, because I love the I love Leica movies, so I always make sure to watch like all the behind the scenes stuff on those. And I've gone to see like multiple like exhibitions of like showing off the puppets and kind of the faces and like everything else. Right. So that's my main frame of reference. But of course, I don't know how other studios that do stop motion approach things. For the most part, like I kind of have an idea of how it's done, just because I guess there's not necessarily only one way to do it, but I imagine a lot of these companies probably do take similar approaches, just because it is the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, and to this special's credit, it is stop motion, but I think we've gotten to a point in like stop motion puppetry and artistry that you could have told me that this was CG that was mimicking stop motion. I probably would have believed you. Yeah, it's very smooth, the way the characters move, and like the texture of the puppets and stuff. It's just very clean. And especially with like X, you could have told me he was like a CG model that was just like animated to look like he was stop motion, and could have believed that. So the fact that this is like 90% actual stop motion, I think that it makes that even more impressive with like how clean it is.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of a note I was reading about it too, was one of the brothers, or it was probably the one that directed, talking about how the approach that they had to take as far as producing the special was something to the effect of because they were very specifically trying to emulate the Rankin Bass specials, was that they were absolutely capable of making this thing look even better, but they had to hit sort of a middle ground between what they were really capable of and what they wanted to kind of emulate. So they're kind of like in the middle ground of like, yeah, this actually could have looked like even better, but they have to make it very clear that like, oh, this is supposed to be like a Rankin Bass special. It has to very clearly read as being a stop motion thing. Like, I'd say they achieved it very well. I mean, yeah, there are certain shots, that use like digital stuff, but I mean, just like, I wouldn't want to task them with doing that just for any other reason than saying like, oh, well, I think this movie looks like the whole thing could be CG anyway. And it's just like, it's always kind of, I always feel like that must be a little bit annoying to hear from the people that did the posing and the photographs and everything on those movies. Cause just like, yeah, no, if only it were that easy. And that's not to say that fucking doing CG animation is like, a walk in the park or anything, but I mean, like, God, having to like actually, pose these out manually and like everything else, it just seems like,
look, I've had my hand at most main forms of animation, 2D, 3D puppets, and man, stop motion is a pain in the ass. So anyone who could do that well, they need a fucking round of applause, because that shit's hard.
Yeah, totally. I remember fucking around with like some I used to mess around with like little clay puppets I made back in like middle school, and I had this little cheapo camera that I bought that was really good at sort of like getting a lot of quick shots, like not like a full-on digital camera, but just like, so I fucked around with it myself, and I used to make just like these little, probably less than a minute, like, just things like stop motion. So like I'm not saying like I'm an expert by any means, but I just, with that little work that I've done myself, I can understand like just God, how much of a time intensive thing it is. And it's just like anyone who has the patience to do that, has my full respect. That's why I really enjoy the Leica movies, just because you can just really respect the craft that they have for their work.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, so yeah, I feel like this is just a very fluffy. It's the fluffiest of the fluffy kind of Christmas fare. I honestly, it didn't leave much of an impact on me. I don't see myself watching this again. But I feel like if you've got small kids this time of year and you're looking for something to watch, I feel like it's perfectly passable.
Yeah. No,
yeah,
I mean,
it's well made, but from a plot perspective, it's kind of just like nothing special.
no, but if you appreciate like stop motion stuff, like definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, at least once.
And if you're just looking to kind of break up, the yearly rewatching of like, Peanuts or The Grinch or, any other like timeless Christmas classic, and you kind of want to just, break it up a bit and watch something new, like, you could do a lot worse than this for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch any of those, what is it, like those Elf on a Shelf, like CG movies or something.
I saw those at the store the other day.
And like, I don't want to discount the whole series or anything, but I mean, I've seen bits from those movies and they just look like, if you're talking about stuff that's very,
there's so many of them.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about stuff that's very, maybe generic's not the right. Oh no, maybe generic is the right word. I don't know. It's just very
is an excellent word for it.
Because it's like just Christmas for the sake of Christmas. It doesn't really seem to do anything new. At least with this one, the premise is, just different enough that it's fun to see kind of their take on it. And plus, I think the designs are fun too. Like aside from all the actual Christmas stuff, really, looking like Rankin Bass stuff, like the designs of aliens and stuff. It's an iconic design. Gray aliens. Like everyone knows what those look like, and to kind of see them in like various varying shapes and sizes, and like seeing them all colorful, like at the end of the movie, being tied in with kind of the moral of the story and stuff. Like that's fun stuff. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I also really enjoyed when Santa brought out the nunchucks, because it made me think of Jingle All the Way. There's a bit in there where Schwarzenegger's fighting all the mall Santas, and one just comes up with the nunchucks, and he hucks them, and like he does this like, or no, he like punches him in the face or something, and then like he kind of does like this roll where he rolls backwards, and he's standing up on top of his head like before he turns around. Like it's pretty good.
That's a movie I haven't thought about in a minute.
You should go watch Jingle All the Way, JD. It's a very fun movie.
I?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then get back to me.
Kyle, is there anything else you wanted to say about this?
I didn't hate it, but I don't really see myself watching it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. It's fair. I mean, just keep in mind what I said. Just if you want to break it up, you can do a lot worse than this. If you just want to check it out, it's only like 45 minutes. Your kids will probably enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure.
Although, if you're looking for something with Christmas and aliens, just go watch a horrible Xmas of Doom from Invader Zim, because that's, like I said, probably the best. Probably the best like 30 minutes of Christmas related content ever.
I'm about to say, if I'm gonna mix Christmas and aliens, it better be weird. Like, this is just like pretty light kids thing. I need some weird shit if I'm gonna mix those two things.
You can't get any weirder than that show.
All right. Well, guys, there you go. There's our review on Alien Xmas. It is out on Netflix right now if you'd like to go watch it for yourself. If you have seen it, let us know what you thought about it as well. So on our Facebooks, our Twitter, you can join our Discord, you can subscribe to our YouTube page. And if you'd like to take us on the go, we are available on pretty much all those streaming services, Apple, Google, Spotify, all that good junk. We will be back next week with another Christmas-themed podcast to help us round out the year. Got a couple more shows before this god-awful year is over. So come on back for that next week, and I hope everyone stays safe, and we'll catch you all again soon.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter to keep up with the show. Join our Discord to chat with us. Links are in the description. We'll see you next time.